What's up, guys, and welcome back to the greatest game show on this side of the internet where you get to defend takes you may or may not believe. We are on Defend the Take today with Dave Dufour and Mike Vorkunov, and we are doing the trade deadline edition where we get to talk fake trades. If you do not know how this game show works, each of you guys will get 60 seconds to defend your take, and then after that, you guys will discuss and try to convince me why your take is correct. Today, since it is the trade deadline edition, we got three takes related to the trade deadline. The first one is, what is the craziest trade that can maybe happen? The second one is, who is the player that won't be traded but probably should be traded? And the third one is, what is the trade that will have the most championship impact? Dave, since you return every single week and you're used to this, we'll let you go first. The first take today, the craziest trade that can maybe happen, about 60 seconds.
Wait, let me interrupt just 1 second.
Okay.
I still need a trivia question. We can't just break tradition.
No, no trivia. No trivia today.
No trivia.
No
I
trivia.
would have thought you had some Orlando Magic trade trivia.
There's nothing to play for. I'm not giving you. I'm not giving you your take this time. There's nothing to play.
It's true.
The craziest trade that could maybe happen. Dave, 60 seconds begins now.
All right, this would absolutely be insane. But with the rumors flying over the weekend and being squashed by Rich Paul and Clutch, what if LeBron James got traded? And not just anywhere. What if LeBron James got traded to the Golden State Warriors? I put together a package that I think would be appealing for the Lakers. Number one, Chris Paul, you need that salary ballast in there to get the big fish in LeBron James. You throw in Kevon Looney because, hey, a backup big in LA, he'd be perfect behind Anthony Davis. They could play together some. You know, Looney, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart to say it, a bit washed. And it needs to go to a reserve role somewhere. But the big fish, if you're LA, is Jonathan Kuminga. You get Jonathan Kuminga, a guy that I think has star potential. You get him young on that rookie deal in return. And Moses Moody, who Steve Kerr just refuses to play, so might as well free Moody and send him to LA. And for the Warriors, LeBron.
Time. Okay, Mike, what is your trade?
Well, mine also involves the Golden State Warriors, but I'm going to go the opposite way. What if the Warriors traded Klay Thompson? Right? He's got a contract coming up at the end of this season. It's clear that they're apart in contract talks. They need to get better this year. He's got so much equity with the Warriors, so many rings with the Warriors. It seems like totally out there to trade Klay Thompson. What if that's their avenue to get better? What if they can trade his big contract, use that big salary slot to get some guys on longer term deals, some younger players, and get better in the short and near term? It's crazy. I know. It's Klay. We all love Klay. I love Klay Thompson, Warriors legend, NBA legend, Game 6 legend. But what if that's their way of getting better and breaking up the Curry, Klay, Draymond?
Mike, I want to start you off with a question real quick. Where would you send Klay?
Where would I send Klay? I mean, that's an interesting one. What if they send him to Chicago along with many picks for Zach LaVine and Alex Caruso, throwing in some trade filler along with Kevon Looney? What if they do that?
I mean, that could work. What if Klay Thompson was my choice for number two in this exercise today? And I thought I was going to catch everyone off guard and surprise them by saying Klay Thompson should be moved. I'm kind of with you there. I mean, number one, the Warriors, and it's telling that we both included the Warriors, right? Like, they need to shake things up. This is Steph Curry. This might be his last year as a top 5 or 6 player. I mean, what he's done the last few nights has been insane. The 60-point game over the weekend where he's just trying to do it on his own. Draymond is really, really good still defensively. I love how Kuminga has stepped up and is playing like a huge role, but it's clear to me that they need someone with a little bit more juice. And I'm not sure whether it's one guy with a lot more juice or 2 or 3. I don't hate the LaVine and Caruso idea. I think that you bring a nice combo guard in Caruso, who is a good utility player. He can close games, great connector offensively. Like, I mean, he would fit right in to what the Warriors already do. Like, he knows how to play. And then Zach LaVine, frankly, to be able to bring a guy like that off the bench and also sometimes be able to close games with that much firepower would give you, I think, some lineup flexibility that they would probably, I mean, it'd be useful in the playoffs for sure if they made it. And the other thing is, I'm not ready to give up on Andrew Wiggins. I think that Andrew Wiggins has turned things around the last few weeks. And for this team to be able to compete at the highest level, they need Andrew Wiggins playing like Andrew Wiggins from 2020 more than they need Clay, to be honest. So, I got to hand it to you. I think that we're on the same page, unfortunately. But I think the
Same
crazier, but that to me tells me it's not that crazy of a trade because we both thought about it. But LeBron to the Warriors, that would be insane and also solve a lot of problems for them.
Yeah. Here's another one. If we're just talking about fake LeBron trades, what if this is the way to get LeBron to the Knicks?
I'm not quite sure that LeBron shouldn't also be the answer for number 2 when we get there. But LeBron is a guy who, at this point in his career, when you think about, just who he is, like the Lakers are not a championship contention. Like they're not going to be in championship contention. Last year's run to the conference finals was impressive, very impressive, but a little bit of fool's gold. And so unless they can pull off another deadline miracle, I mean, we're talking, this is Monday and we're talking 4 days from now. I just don't get what you're doing with LeBron. You almost have to not free LeBron. Like that's a little bit, I think, oversaid, but don't you need to say, hey, LeBron, how would you feel about, like, is this something that you need or want? And then maybe it is. And maybe the Knicks have a shot if they could get LeBron. I mean, not to, I hate to say it, but do you count on Embiid being back for a playoff run? I think the East looks a little bit winnable if you're the Knicks. The Knicks look really good. East looks winnable. If you can get to the finals, it gives yourself a shot. I mean, for the Knicks to just make the finals is such a huge deal.
Look, I know I'm going to win today. I will give up all 3 of my wins over Dave. If LeBron replaces his hashtag washed king tweets with hashtag free LeBron, if he starts using that, just give Dave all the W's.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, didn't he like tweet out the Statue of Liberty emoji? I mean, it feels like a lot of smoke here.
I got a question. Going back to the Warriors real quick. Do you guys think they should buy or sell at this deadline, or just? I mean, both of you guys say they have to make a move, so
you can't. Well, they're not trading Steph Curry. They can't.
Okay.
You got to buy, yeah. For that reason, you got to. You have Steph Curry. The same reason you have LeBron James,
right? You
got to maximize that team. You have Steph Curry. You got to maximize that team. They have so many narrow constraints though because of their cap situation, the age of all their players. They don't have all of their picks going forward. They have some very, very high-end contracts that make it harder to trade under normal terms, let alone as everyone's figuring out this new CBA. But again, you have Steph Curry. Like, you can't just have another year where the 2 years ago where they lost in the play-in tournament. Like, you got to figure it out. You got to try to give him a chance in the playoffs and try to make another run at the title. Also, when you're paying like $400 million in salary with all these luxury taxes, like, what are you doing trying to go for 41 and 41, right? Like,
you need home playoff games too, right? Like, and this is we're not in, like, this is no longer 2020 when you can say, okay, well, this is a lost one. No, you need home playoff games. Like, that's what pays the bills. So, they definitely need to buy, but the Lakers also need to buy unless they're going to move on from LeBron James, which would be kind of crazy. Listen, would be insane. But the Lakers need to buy. Like, the Suns need to buy. Kevin Durant's not getting any younger. The Bucks need to buy. Giannis is never going to be this good again. Like, this is the prime and peak of his career. So I don't think the Warriors are in a unique situation, but they are the one. I think that they've got one of the more flawed rosters. And I would even say over the Lakers, because the Lakers, the pieces, they fit. They're just not very good. The Warriors they never addressed getting a big man, and they are constantly outsized. And in order to win the West, you have to go through Anthony Davis. You have to go through Nikola Jokic. Like, these are dudes that you're going to have to face up against, and they don't have that. And especially because Kevon Looney, again, unfortunately, He just looks like he's not the level of player that they need, right? So unless your plan is 48 minutes of Draymond Green at center, getting just banged up, and that's for the rest of the season. This is not just a couple of times here and there. Everybody forgets he played the 5 sparingly. It was used as a secret weapon almost. I mean, the Bogut years, I mean, they always had a center, and I think that they're really missing that. So the most flawed roster to me is the Warriors. I think they have to buy because you have Steph Curry. How many more years of this level of play does he have in him?
I'm going to give the point to Mike because I don't want to see LeBron traded because I just want to see more tweets from him. And if he gets traded, there's going to be no more tweets. So,
I don't know. I'm going to push back on that one. I think if he got traded, you might see some crazy tweets.
You think there'd be more tweets if he got traded?
Absolutely. With the spotlight on. Oh man, look, the guy likes attention. I'll just put it that way. He likes attention.
All right. Well, Mike still gets the point. Second prop, we got the player that won't be traded, but probably should be traded. Dave, your 60 seconds starts now.
Well, again, I gave my Klay Thompson and LeBron cases in round one. I mean, look, the easy answer here, and I think I'm going to steal Mike's answer, but the easy answer here, it would be Zach LaVine. But for me, it's actually DeJounte Murray. This dude, every single time he posts on social media, it's like, hey, I'm available and ready to go. Please get me out of here. It just seems like they don't like each other down there. It's not going to work. And this guy, I think, could be a key contributor on a championship level team. I mean, he's not going to be your best player on a championship team. Hopefully not even your third. But man, if he's your fourth best guy or fifth best guy, he would be amazing. He fits the Warriors extremely well and some of the stuff they need. They could use a bigger guard, a guy who could do what Klay Thompson used to do and go and guard at point of attack players when he's playing with Steph Curry. So Steph doesn't have to do all that stuff. He's a great rebounder. I mean, again, something else the Warriors.
Time.
Good point.
Mike, your 60 seconds begins now.
Well, I was going with Zach LaVine, and then Dave kind of took that off the board. Then I was actually going to go with DeJounte Murray. Then Dave took that off the board. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make a hard pivot. Guys, let's stop thinking about the middle of the NBA. Let's stop thinking about the top of the NBA. Let's start thinking about the bottom of the NBA. I think the Pistons should trade Jaden Ivey. How about that? Look, they're in a bad spot here. He is their best chance to pivot a little bit, get another player with potential that you could put around Cade Cunningham, make the fit a little bit better, and acquire someone that Cade can grow old with. It's odd right now what's going on in Detroit. Aside from the roster fit, like, everything's clearly not working. Just look at their record, right? And Monty Williams, for one reason or another, has just refused to play Jaden Ivey significant minutes for the majority of the season, has refused to put the ball in his hands so often. And you got to change something up. You can't keep doing the same thing. Everyone keeps talking about trading Bojan Bogdanovic. I get why, but like you actually want to avoid.
I could not disagree more. Could not disagree more on Jaden Ivey.
Why?
When you're the Detroit Pistons and you lack talent, especially youth talent, look, that is a talented player. They need to keep him. Everybody else is on the roster, could be available. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, and that's about it for me. Right? You can't trade those three guys. Trade Monty Williams before you trade Jaden Ivey. Monty Williams is the problem there. And
I don't think you get out from that.
Cade Cunningham would work well together. I mean, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, that's a little bit of a comp, and it's a stretch. But you can see where having a dynamic ball handling guard and a bigger playmaking guard, I mean, that works. And in the modern NBA, I've never heard a team say, we just got too many guys that can do stuff with the ball in their hands. That's never a bad problem. The problem in Detroit is coaching and lack of imagination. It is not Jaden Ivey. Oh my gosh, this is the most passionate I've ever felt about anyone's made up trade.
Look, I'm not saying to trade
Hayes, get him out of here. Jaden Ivey.
Well, I mean, what's Killian Hayes got to do with this?
I would make Jaden Ivey the coach before I would trade him.
I'm not saying Jaden Ivey is bad. I'm not saying the Pistons are overrun with ball handlers and playmakers. I am saying they have a young, interesting ball handler and playmaker. That's not doing anything for him. And the coach is making 13. He's making $13 million a year. Monty Williams ain't going nowhere. Even if you wanted Monty Williams to go somewhere, you're paying him $13 million a year. That's a lot of money. That means he's staying, right? You made the commitment to him. So now you try to maximize your roster as is. Do you try to make a deal with San Antonio where you get Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, and some other guys that you can kind of fit around Cade Cunningham to improve the total five? Do you try to look for another team that's also on the ascent that needs someone who's a ball handler that can give you some of what you need? Like, try to make the pieces fit so you have a more cohesive roster around Cade Cunningham, because I think Cade is pretty good, but Cade Cunningham also needs better shooting around him. He needs better defense around him. He needs better, like, everything around him, right? And so maybe Jaden Ivey is your way to get that and to arbitrage the build a little bit, because there's really nothing else you can trade. I don't think a first round pick this year, even if it's very high up, is going to be that interesting to teams based on what everyone's saying about the 2024 draft. So then what are you doing? Like, how are you going to get better without giving away every one of your picks going forward? I think Jaden Ivey might be that guy, might be the tool that you have to use to kind of improve the roster on the whole instead of just focusing on one possibly top end guy.
Seems to me like Cade Cunningham actually fits the description of what you're because Cade Cunningham would net you a haul of assets. Jaden Ivey.
Well, I mean, then just give it up.
Listen. Well, this is what I'm saying. So Jaden Ivey has not gotten a chance. Jaden Ivey is going to be looked at as a second draft guy for teams because his coach won't play him. It's not because he's not talented. And by the way, like Monty Williams, like putting a team together for a coach doesn't really make any sense. How many points has Monty Williams scored this season for the Pistons, right? Like coaches don't actually win games, right? They manage. And he has managed to engineer the worst losing streak in NBA history. I don't trust a single decision that he has made. We just had the idea given to him by the front office that Jaden Ivey should have the ball in his hands. What are we doing? He didn't want the job. They kept throwing money at him until he took the job. I wish I had the problems that Monty Williams has. Taking that job, oh my God, I would also mail it in and take the money. This is not a Jaden Ivey problem. And you're not going to get enough in a Jaden Ivey trade to reset the deck. You're just not. So if you were going to reset the deck, the way to do it would be Cade Cunningham. That could be a Herschel Walker-like trade where you get 4 future firsts, maybe 4 swaps. I mean, Cade Cunningham at this stage of his career, that would be a franchise-altering move. And yes, it is a reset, but you're not going anywhere as it is. So I would make the argument that Jaden Ivey, sure, maybe you move him, but Cade Cunningham, that's the big piece of bait that could net you a huge load in the future. And now, I don't know if I would do that. That would take some real guts, but I don't know. I think there might be new decision makers up there.
Wait, so just to be clear, Dave, you're saying this year you would trade Cade before you trade Jaden Ivey.
I'm saying if the idea is I can trade this young player, create some clarity, and get assets in return, then you might as well do Cade Cunningham and get a real return. I mean, a real return. You could probably get a very good young player or two and 6 to 8 draft picks as far as picks and swaps if you were to make Cade Cunningham available. I mean, he's a high-level player. Like, this is a guy who was considered to be a number one franchise cornerstone. Now, I don't think he's shown enough to still have that moniker, but this is like second best player on a title team, maybe eventually, and he would net a haul. I don't think Mike would argue with that.
I just want to, for the sake of argument and for the sake of winning points, I want to summarize our 2 arguments. I am saying the Pistons should trade Jaden Ivey in a way to get better. Dave is saying the 6-win Pistons should rebuild. All right, let's just get out there by trading away their best player and their best prospect. I mean, sometimes there's a line between crazy and genius, and I think someone's crossed it.
The argument was DeJounte Murray needs to be moved, which you agreed with, and I forced you to pivot into Jaden Ivey and who you were incorrect about. Like, let's just.
What about DeJounte Murray for Jaden Ivey?
Well, now that's interesting.
That is, isn't it?
But DeJounte Murray taking you from a 9-win team to a 12-win team.
Yeah, would the Pistons do that trade? I don't know.
No.
If they would.
I think it's kind of interesting. They need to get better immediately. I understand you're giving up the potential upside Jaden Ivey, but DeJounte's still pretty young. He's on a great deal moving forward too. Um, and you know, I think the Pistons just, reading the tea leaves, have some incentives to try to get better immediately. I don't know. There's crazier things out there, like trading
I,
Kate Cunningham.
I like the idea of you two compromising, and so I'll give both of you guys a point for that. But Dave, one of my favorite quotes of all time is that coaches coach because they can't play. And I feel like you are on the same mindset as a former coach or current coach too, I guess. And so I will give you an extra point, Dave. And so we're tied 2-2 headed into the final prompt. Final prompt, prompt number 3. The trade that will have the most championship impact, or the player that will be traded that will have the most championship impact. Dave, 60 seconds starts now.
Okay, well, it's a guy, he's already been traded once this season, but he's in Toronto. Bruce Brown, number one, he just won a title and was a key member of the Denver Nuggets team that won the title. Like, we've seen him do it. I think he is a championship swinging piece. If he goes to one of these contenders, I will move them up the leaderboard a little bit. Denver could use it. Man, if he could go back to Denver, but they can't afford it. So I think Bruce Brown has the biggest upside as far as championship level play of anyone likely to move. If DeJounte goes to the right team, it could be him, but Bruce Brown's my pick just because we just saw him do it in the finals last year.
All right. Mike, you're good to go.
I was worried that Dave was going to steal my opinion again, steal my great ideas again, but Dave is right. It is a player who has already been traded. It is a trade that has already been made. I think it's the Terry Rozier deal. I'll be honest. I was surprised the Heat gave up what they did. They have few kind of limited draft assets for Terry Rozier. I'm not sure that he's going to make them a whole heck of a lot better. I thought they needed a little more size. They need a little more on-the-ball juice. Someone who plays, can potentially fit into their style of defense and their style of Heat culture, #Heat culture. And I know Terry Rozier's got that to him, but the East is wide open this year, I think, at the top end. And I thought with the right trade, they could kind of make a move to get away with winning Eastern Conference title one more time in their Heat way. And I don't know if the Terry Rozier deal is it. And obviously it hasn't, paid off so far. It's a short term. We'll see how it works over the long term. But I was a little bit surprised that they used what could potentially be an unprotected first round pick to get Terry Rozier.
Mike, I got a question for you. Are you saying this will have championship impact in the opposite way? Like they've ruined their championship impact? Because don't they have one win with Terry?
It's an interconnected network, the NBA, right? Like if one team doesn't get better, that means the other teams have a larger chance to win the championship, right? If the Heat have made a trade that doesn't increase their championship odds significantly, I think that's much better off for Boston. I think that's much better off for Milwaukee. I think that's better off. Well, Philly, Joel Embiid is hurt now, but for the Knicks, for Cleveland, like if the Heat had made a trade that really improved them significantly for a potentially, again, unprotected first round pick, wouldn't you be scared of facing the Heat in that situation, considering everything they've done in the playoffs for the last 4 years since they got Jimmy Butler? I think maybe just by making the deal that they did, they missed out on an opportunity to do that, to scare the rest of the East like that.
I have a question. When was the last time Terry Rozier played in the finals?
Did he play in the NCAA tournament finals with Louisville?
Just asking a question. So would you call him like a championship player?
I think axiomatically he's not, right?
Bruce Brown is. That's all.
Wait, isn't that Mike's point though? Like he's so bad, or like he's not so bad, but he's not good enough.
No, I'm not saying he's bad.
Yeah. He's saying he's not good enough to get the Heat over the hump, and so he has made them worse in a sense, and everyone else.
No, better. I'm saying that he has not made them good enough.
Okay.
To get into a position where they would be up there with Boston and Milwaukee, and again potentially the Knicks, who made a pretty good trade for OG Anunoby. That things were looking pretty good when everyone was healthy, right? I thought Miami with the right trade could have made themselves just as dangerous, with the pick that they gave up, right? It's so hard to get completely unprotected first round picks, which that pick has a decent chance of being, and they gave it up to Charlotte for Terry Rozier. Like I was surprised. I thought they maybe could have landed someone who fits a little better, who's a little bit better off in Miami, and to increase their championship odds this season.
Dave,
are we rewarding tanking here? Is that
No, no.
Who's
banking
tanking?
championship odds?
Dave, I got a quick question about Bruce Brown. I
Yeah.
mean, you mentioned the Nuggets, but you said that's probably not going to happen. What realistically, like, where could you see him going and like
You know,
having a big impact?
this is the interesting part, right? Like, and Mike, you're very well versed in the new CBA and the implications of the new tax aprons and how hard team building gets. I think Bruce Brown could be some of these teams that maybe would wait for a buyout guy or two. I think we might see them be more aggressive and maybe even give up some guys and some picks to get a guy like Bruce Brown this year because they can't really get into the buyout market. Like Kyle Lowry,
There's 7 teams that are blocked off.
yeah. So those teams, to me, looking for a high level veteran player, they might be willing to give up more to get Bruce Brown. You would have his early bird rights for the offseason, so you could bring him back.
Well,
a little bit of
one more year.
One more year, excuse me. Yeah, because
If you pick up his option, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd be able to have his early bird rights. There's some team building aspects to bringing in Bruce Brown that come into play, but
He's also good.
he's very good, right? Like, and he's a two-way player. Like what we saw out of him in Denver with the ball in his hands, I think opened a lot of teams' eyes. I mean, Indiana, for instance, and the money that he got, that was pretty good value, I think, when you consider the fact that you can play him big minutes in the playoffs. I mean, we've seen it, and so I just think he's a guy that teams like. Seems pretty coachable. He seems to fit just about every locker room he's been in. He's been around a little bit, so I think that he's a major piece. But maybe Toronto decides they like him and they want to hang on to him. I mean, he's that sort of player, so he may not even move. But I think that if he does, that's a huge swing piece for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like the same thing with Kyle Lowry, right? Kyle Lowry can't go to 7 teams as a buyout player this year, and those 7 teams are the exact ones you think he'd be a good fit for, right? So does someone try to jump in front of the line and trade for him instead of missing out on him because he just can't sign them because they're above the first apron this year? I don't know. We'll see. And Toronto's got a few interesting guys. They got Bruce Brown. He's almost like a perfect new CBA player because he's pretty good. His salary is high enough where you can use him in a few different types of trades. If you pick up his option for next year, I think it's like $23 million, something like that, right? So then that opens the opportunity for you to make a bigger trade next season. Like, he's a pretty good guy to pick up for a lot of reasons. And so I think Dave's got a good one. I think that's going to be an interesting one. I don't know. We wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks ended up trading for him, right, with the injuries that they have. He fits into their culture, I think, pretty well, or he would fit into their culture pretty well. Toronto also has Gary Trent
And he
Jr.
can play with Brunson. He could play with Brunson. And
He didn't go to Villanova, but he could probably do it.
Yeah.
Guys, my high school AP Econ teacher once told us, when you study for a test, don't look at the trees in the forest, look at the forest. And what he meant by that was, you don't need to know the details as long as you know the concepts, but also just to get a bigger picture, because the bigger picture is where the beauty is. And Mike, you looked at the bigger picture of the NBA landscape, and your answer successfully fit that landscape. And so for the 3rd straight time, Mike, I'm going to give you a point, and you're going to defeat Dave by a score of 3-2.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Academy, the people who vote on the Grammys. I don't know who does the Emmys, but I want to thank all of you. The Kids' Choice Awards.
Susan Lucci on this show.
It's just the mic. It's just the mic, man. You beat everyone else. It's just Mike. You have terrible record against. You have no wins against Mike. It's just tough.
No
Dave, listen. Sometimes you're pretty good. Sometimes you're Hulk Hogan. But then you know what? Goldberg comes around.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments who was right and who was wrong. And it's never Dave because his trades never work out.